Well, so WebXB stands for web extraction, and that kind of ties into the earliest idea I had of the company, and that was web scraping. And that's really what sets us apart is yes, we can, yes, we say that we can understand emotion, but actually we do truly understand emotion. So at the moment, we analyze data with up to 19 emotions. And we combine that with human-built themes of experiences. So that could be like product attributes, that could be brand like related themes. And in the employee experience space, we've got nearly 60 themes. There's a core strength of Gen AI that no one seems to really talk about, and that is its natural, like conversational ability, to talk to people.
Imagine you can not only listen to your employees, but you can actually understand them. Imagine that you not only understand the sentiment, but you can get insights on a deeper, more emotional level. Imagine you don't only rely on your annual engagement survey, but have a system that helps you listen and truly understand your employees in a 360-degree fashion. And now let me tell you that this is not just in your imagination, but there are startups that are working on it with the help of scraping multiple sources of information and using AI to listen on a more deeper level. Isn't that great? Welcome to another Employee Experience Labs podcast from the Munich Podcast Studio. Employee Experience Labs podcasts are about HR tech, employee experience, shared services, and other interesting topics around HR at the workplace. We are currently running 2 different seasons at the same time because they intersect and influence each other. One season is about startups and young experience tech companies. The other season is about AI. Today's episode is focused on startups, but also on AI. And as my introduction alluded to, you will quickly hear what we will talk about AI and how deep we go. I had the opportunity to speak with another startup founder, Theo Davey from WebXB. Theo and I met on LinkedIn, and I quickly saw the potential of his idea and was intrigued. It took us a while to get together for this recording, but I'm excited that we finally managed. Theo's idea and service looks at experience from a few different angles, as we will explore during our conversation. First and foremost, he looks at better understanding how employees feel, how experience are landing within a firm. And such an understanding is key to further improve your experience, so it needs to be at the foundation of any experience strategy. But also the way how Theo thinks about getting to this knowledge is about experience, as one of his tools is an AI-supported voice assistant that is capable of doing live, partially unscripted employee surveys or interviews to really engage and understand what your employees say, mean, and feel. This is truly exciting, but of course also a bit scary when you think about it. But nonetheless, this is a true glimpse of how the future of experience understanding could look like. Let me pause here and let's go right into it. Welcome, Theo from WebXB. Hello, Theo. It's so great to meet you. I'm really excited about today. I'm really excited to have you on my podcast. How are you?
I am very, very well, thank you. Although it has been raining for the last 3 days, but like, we can expect it here in the UK. But
I was just about to say, isn't it that what you expect in the UK anyway?
yeah, no, unfortunately. But I mean, apart from the weather, it's I'm fine, thank you. Just I'm hoping for a strong final quarter of the year, and then a nice break over Christmas.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that as well. But until then, we have a few more weeks. Although I have to admit, I'm counting already. I think it's 9 weeks to Christmas. So this is good. And that's scary, right? Because it's great to have the time off, but it's scary how much you need to get into those 9.
Well, and also I suppose like being a startup founder, I mean, what is a break? And that's, that's certainly something that I found, since I did start my company. And it also depends on, where you work and who you work with. Like, in the UK and in Europe, like you do have a break over Christmas, usually
Yes.
2 to 3 weeks. But I also work with companies in the States, and they literally have 1 or 2 days off, and they're still operating over Christmas. So then it's like, okay, well, looks like I'm gonna have Christmas Day off, but apart from that, I still have to be online, still have.
Maybe Boxing Day and then
Well, Boxing Day in the UK, if you know, is a big event. Especially down by me, Cornwall, you go out to the rugby club, you watch a rugby game, and then you also sink some pints as well.
that sounds good. But Theo, we're already in it. First of all, let me tell you, the audience, that I'm really happy to have you. It took us some time to find the right timing, find the right slots. I'm really excited about our conversation today. Before we though go into the actual conversation, Theo, maybe you start with telling us a bit about yourself first. Who are you? What is your background?
Who am I? That's a very good question. Well, firstly, I'm from Cornwall, England, as I said. I am at 29 years old, so I'm still young. I've been in tech analytics for about 7 years now, but that's not where I started. I actually started in anti-money laundering. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, so that's where my career started. And I actually thought that was going to be a lifelong career, and that started at Vilnius at Lithuania. Uh, I lived there for 4 years. I studied there. I left England in 2014. I studied there for 4 years, and I thought that actually I could probably have a life here, and that's kind of where my career started. But I decided that I would come back to England in 2018, and pretty much a month afterwards, I jumped straight into this world of text analytics and AI, and I've never really looked back, to be honest.
That's good.
On a personal note, I'm a football fan. Arsenal.
The right side of football, right? Not the American art. It's the right thing of football, the European one.
Not the American side. Yeah, I'm a big Arsenal fan. I'm a big history buff, which really started during COVID. Actually, when we were stuck at home, I just started buying loads and loads of books about history, and specifically World War II. Yeah, no, I like to monitor the current global conflicts, and just to really get an awareness of what's going on. I love cats, cheese, and coffee, the 3 C's of life.
That's an interesting combination. I've never heard about that combination before.
I think that probably rounds me off pretty well.
Yeah, and then Theo, in I think it was 2021, right? You found the WebXB. How did you arrive there? What made you go there?
Well, so I founded WebXB last year.
Last year it was.
So it's still quite fresh. I started it in May of last year. It's been going for a year and 5 months.
And a half almost.
How I got there really was, last year was a very stressful time for me personally, and I could feel myself slipping into burnout. And I had a situation where I was changing jobs, and I was looking at jobs, and I was applying for jobs, and I was thinking, actually, do I really want to be working for another company? I just don't think I actually have the energy to work for somebody else. But I've always been interested in doing my own thing, and I do love a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think that's in my nature, and that's kind of backed up by the fact that after college, I just decided, you know what, I want to go live in Eastern Europe for 4 years. So I felt last year was the perfect time for me to go out on my own, to explore
Yeah.
if I could make it work, whilst also having a bit of a mental break and having the freedom where I could, you know, just have some time off. Fast forward a year and a half, I I have my energy back, and it was, really the best decision. And I am aware that some listeners may think that is absolutely the worst reason to start a business, but because you are shattered and you're knackered. Um, but I knew deep down that that was, the best thing
Right.
being me. So that's really how I landed there.
Amazing. And now what is WebXB about? I understand it's a data insights company, but what is the deeper reasoning that you went where you went with WebXB, and what's the philosophy behind it?
Well, so WebXB stands for web extraction, and that kind of plays into the earliest idea I had of the company, and that was web scraping. Um, it's an area that I've been involved with for many years, and I always saw the value that data from sources such as like review sites and forums could bring. You've got unprompted, uh, you know, use and experiences of products, services, of brands. And that was my kind of initial focus. But it really didn't take me long to figure out that actually there's so much more that I could offer. And one of the focuses for the past 7 years for me has been emotion analytics. So that's understanding how people feel about the experiences they have, and that's across both the employee experience space and also the consumer experience. Uh, so I wanted to bring that in as well. Last year, I started exploring how I potentially use Gen AI to,
Mhm.
what's the best use case? How could I bring this into something which is relevant to what I'm doing? I didn't want to bring something completely, out there. But with data scraping, it's all like collecting rich data, and something I really wanted to use Gen AI for. Mm. Because it there's a core strength of Gen AI that no one seems to really talk about, and that is its natural, like, conversational ability,
Yeah.
to talk to people. And so I wanted to leverage this strength and to bring it in and create a solution where we can obtain rich data in a natural way. Going back to your question about the kind of the deep reason of WebXB, or the purpose of WebXB, what I really want to do is I want to help companies understand their employees, their their customers in a deep but nuanced way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you think about this, I mean, this is truly at the heart of what I am, talking about in the
Mm.
podcast, right? The employee, the experience, and how we can better understand and then do something about it, right? So there are many different solutions and ideas out there how to better understand and do something about experience. What would you say sets apart your way of going about?
I think it comes down to how you analyze the data. I mean, what I see across the employee experience space, and also like consumer experience, is that a lot of companies are happy with just like sentiment analysis. And it's a very high level, broad like metric. It's an opinion, if you like it or not. But that's really, with like natural language processing, that's the limitation really that we're at, is that is that AI doesn't have the emotional the emotional intelligence to really understand how people feel.
Or at least not yet. Who knows? At least not yet.
Not yet, no. But do we truly want that?
It's a good conversation. Yes, yes. I'm with you. It's a bit scary.
But for the last 7 years, the way that we've done it is what we call like a hybrid model. So and and this is actually like understanding the data. So yes, we do use AI, but we also combine that uh with like human intelligence. So
Yeah.
because the humans bring that understanding of emotion and of a context and of meaning. And that's really what sets us apart is yes, we can, yes, we say that we can understand emotion, but actually we do truly understand emotion. So at the moment, we analyze data with up to 19 emotions. And we combine that with human built themes of experiences. That could be a product attribute, that could be brands like related themes. And in the employee experience space, we've got nearly 60 themes that break down every aspect of that experience, from like mental well-being to morale, motivation, to leadership, like salary and benefits, all of those. And we combine our emotion analytics with these themes that really pulls out, first of all, what are your employees feeling? Uh, is it frustration? Is it love? Is it happiness? Uh, is it anger? And then we say, okay, and here's why, you know, these emotions are, are present. Here's the key drivers.
Yeah.
And that's something that,
Yeah.
from what I've seen, and I've explored a lot about what's out there, and it just doesn't go into that depth. And I feel that's what companies are missing.
Very interesting. And what do you use as the data foundation, as the data basis for your analysis? Are you going with the, let's say, regular engagement employee survey, or what kind of data sources are you going through to build that picture?
So in the past, we did a lot of web scraping in the employee space. There's a few really good sites that you can use, but they've now made these reviews like private. So, and that's one of the rules we don't have, that if we do scrape at public data,
Like Star Blast.
or and
Yeah.
Indeed, I think you can view like three reviews, then you have to sign in. So that, yeah, it's a no go then when you have to sign in. And we, of course, do work with engagement surveys, like NPS surveys. Um, when it's a kind of a fresh survey, what we want to do is we want to influence the questions that, like that are asked. Because time and time again, we see questions that already have the context in the question. You have questions such as, what do you most like about working here? What do you least like about working here? With the MPS question, I think it's about like, are you happy at work? Then you think, well, what's the insight? What's the richness of that data going to be if the context is really in the question? What we've got with surveys like that is you have very bland like, responses, low engagement. It's why you are working with 8 to 12 words a comment, and there's nothing really emotional in it. So we do say, let's expand what you're asking. Like, can you describe the experience that you're having at work? How's your week been? Something which is more open, more conversational, which will allow these to really, share what they're feeling. And, there's various other data sources. Uh,
Yeah.
you think about exit interviews, it's a big one. Just the comments or the responses there are probably going to be quite honest. If they left on bad terms, it's going to be quite rich as well.
Yeah. That's true. And I think this was also then, one of the products that caught my attention that you use to enrich and get a richer data source, right? The conversational voice bot that you have in the Gen AI space.
Yes.
Which you can use to, on one hand, get more on the conversational piece by having a real conversation, right? It's not a text to text, but it is audio, and you use it also to go deeper, to ask the follow-up question in the moment, right?
Yeah, that was one source that I forgot to mention. Is the voice bot is the conversational piece. Um, yeah, I've been working with like voice bots for years. My previous company, we developed and we piloted a voice bot to interview people like on the move. So if you're at an attraction, if you're at an event, you're probably not going to fill in a survey, but you might talk to a tablet. The what we had back then was nothing like we have now. You know, had a very defined like question tree. You would have a defined list of follow-up questions, which was essentially fill a blank with a keyword and phrase, which is either in a positive or a negative manner. With the development of Gen AI, you've now got a machine which can like converse with you naturally. Yes, we still provide a guide, a discussion guide, question set, but we don't need to define the follow-up questions because it's going to understand what you say, and it's also going to take the context of the entire conversation, and it will ask relevant follow-up questions, which are going to dive into, what they previously, what they are, what they spoke about like before. So, um, when I first decided last year that this is definitely something I want to offer, the employee space was immediately a market that I thought that this could benefit so many companies who are struggling with engagement, who are struggling with trying to create like insightful data. And it's just a space where employees can truly express how they feel. My ideal situation here is that you would have a survey where the company can, can track the, their metrics. But then it just redirects to a very open conversation where you are,
Yeah.
how was your day? How's your experience working here? And just to see for 5 to 10 minutes to see where that conversation goes.
I found this very fascinating, interesting, and it's as you said, you went into that just a year or so ago. What are your first results with that? Are your hypothesis on how you can enrich your analysis and your data with this kind of tool successful, or what's success rate here, or how would you describe the outcome of using this now in real life?
I think, what we've seen so far is that like people are just like curious to like try it, which is, great because then you get much higher engagement. From the resultant data, it's been very, very good. I think I said earlier, from a survey, you'd expect a response to be 8 to 12 words. What we're guessing,
If you get that many.
or it could just be a word or two. What we're guessing here so far is nearly like 50 words a response. Uh,
Wow.
and in some cases, we had a 320 word like response. And you think,
Amazing.
how many minutes is that of that person sharing their experience? And just the general data quality with the transcription of the audio as well. Gen AI has massively improved this. I've been in projects in the past where you've had a machine transcription of an interview, and it's been really, really poor. Really, really poor. What
I remember those. Yes.
So, what these new models, what large language models bring is such an improvement in spaces like that, which of course, if it's text analytics, you need to ensure that the data quality is high because you're relying on that data to be tagged. So, one prime example, and this is off a topic now, but we did a Chinese project once, and it was about toothbrushes, and the data was actually translated, and the word toothbrush was in Chinese was translated as a baby in English. So we had talking about uh, when I brush my teeth, like with my baby, it's really nice, it's really good, and it was like, what on earth is going on?
Theo.
You really fall, you know. Um, but that's areas that have been massively improved with like models is that it's really accurate, and especially voice to text. I'm really
Yeah,
impressed with that capability there.
that's amazing. Yeah, and I see this as well, right? The results that you get now through utilizing Gen AI models for translation or transcription are day and night compared to what was there before. And I think we are at the stage where you can actually use it and rely on it versus like, oh my God, what is this? I need to work at least, half of that time that I used before to do it all manually, still on it to make it work, right? So the usage of the old models and the old ways was not as good.
Well, and it's also cost as well, and if you do have audio files, like you could use a machine to transcribe, which will
Yeah,
not too expensive. But then if you did want a human transcription, you pay a lot of money, and the translation costs anyway. If you do need to translate data with the likes of Google, it's not cheap. It soon racks up. So what Gen AI has brought is that cost savings in tasks like this, and the translation I think is probably just as good. And the transcription is far better than what we were working with a few years.
yeah, yeah. Particularly when you look at the, I think it's Whisper, it's called, right? The OpenAI
Whisper
model.
model, yeah,
Uh, yeah,
yeah.
that's fantastic. Now, Theo, let me pivot a bit. Having a great product is one thing, and also a product that where where you can see easily after the first 2-3 minutes of talking about it, the value it can bring to companies. May it be in the customer or consumer space, or may it be in the employee space. But it's difficult then to still identify and get into the market, get in touch with uh, companies to be engaged there and be able to sell your product, your service there. What's your experience with that?
Well, sales is obviously the hardest part of owning a business. Um, it's something that you cannot like give up on. It is, yeah, it's a game of numbers, but it's also about how you shape your message. I've had uh, success in some areas, and there are days where I think, well, I've reached out to 100 people and I've had 0 responses, and just want to give up. But it truly is, I think how you shape the message from because I've always been in a kind of I'm a techie environment, and in the startup space. The hardest part was, taking a message of what we do, which is sometimes we find it easy to understand here, but if you're talking to a HR leader, if you're talking to, a product leader, they're probably not going to understand what you're talking about, nor will they actually find it important. So what we always did then was we try to go from a much wider what, here's what we do, down to, how and then why you need it, why you need to use this, this solution. Um, working, and this isn't just with my company now, but in the past, we've always worked with a wide range of clients, and even now, I like to have a varied list from, like the global corporates to also the very small agile startups, because although global corporates are, great to work with, and it also acts as a credibility badge, really, at the website on the pitch deck. As we all know, they can be slow moving beast. So, working with startups on the other hand, it's very fast. You immediately kind of have a connection with that company. And you can do some really great things together. But my recipe for success, I don't think I've truly created the perfect recipe. I think I'm still learning, how to really like curate that message. Um, yeah.
Yeah. And I hear you there, right? I myself am working and have worked in the big enterprises, and I see how difficult it is. But if you would have a pitch tree, what would you say needs to change in big corporations, maybe specific to your company, but maybe also wider for startups, so that startups and big enterprises can successfully work together? Because I believe this is a recipe for learning for one another and benefiting from one another, but that it is so difficult and so hard, often therefore doesn't lead to the actual collaboration. So if you have like your magic wand, what would you say?
Something we always used to say was you need to find a champion. Um,
Yeah.
and that's someone who, knows what their company needs, knows that startups can offer something which, large corporations can't, and wants to bring them in and wants to help them expand within that organization. And one of the prime examples of this, and this was an experience I had probably 3 years ago.
Yep.
I was trying to sell like emotion analytics, like into market research. And I connected with this person who worked for a global market research firm, and we met. I I pitched what we did.
Uh,
She wanted to assess, is this an actual need for our clients? Decided that we would have a pilot. Within a month, the pilot was finished, and I had the master service agreement on my desk. But what really left an impression on me is, whilst this was all going on, she set up internal pitch days. So I could have 20 minutes to pitch what we're doing, invited teams from across the globe that she thought would be interested and their clients would benefit from that.
amazing.
And that resulted in more opportunities in um, that particular company. And I thought that was such a great like approach to how you have a relationship with vendors. So you give them opportunities to, speak to the rest of the organization, because I've also had experiences where, you know, we've gone into a large like company. Um, the, the organizational structure is quite like siloed. You don't have much like, interaction up between like, divisions, and you kind of just get stuck in that one little team. And if the sales like drop off there, then you don't know anyone. You can't really reach out, and you can't
To the next side.
other teams, and you're just stuck in that little space until one day, that relationship is over. But that experience, the first one I talked about, I thought, wow, that is the definite,
That is amazing. That's a great idea. Yeah.
it's a definition of its support, and that's what started me. Um, is support and opportunities. I know that a lot of companies now, especially banks, are doing, their innovation labs, which I think is great. You apply and you go on a 12-week program, and if you win their
Mm.
competition, then you can become a partner. I think that's great for small companies, companies that have a team, maybe 10 to 15 people. But for early stage startups where you have, kind of a core person and then, maybe just a few around there, going on something like that can be quite daunting, because, okay, for the next 12 weeks, our attention is going to be completely 100% on this competition. Um, but yeah, certainly, going back to that experience, that was, that is definitely the way forward. It's that like champion inside core job it is to ensure that, the vendors that they bring in have success within the organization.
Absolutely. That's a great thing to take away, I think, for the listeners here that work in big companies. I love that idea. It's big. Here, I was wondering, are you only focused on, and only in quotation marks, focused on your like end user market, or are you also thinking, hey, what you offer, the product, the service, are you also offering this to the established vendors that still do employee sentiment analysis and engagement in the old way to build a better product for them or with them?
Yeah, so I mean, the model really varies between um, the market. So with consumer experience, market research, I typically want to partner with consultant firms who already have clients, who already have offerings, uh, and we just tap into that and we enhance what they're already doing. Uh, so far in employee experience, I haven't followed that model exactly because, with any large company, you're gonna have a HR department who are doing that survey and, who are trying to understand how their employees feel. So the model there is really I try and connect to the end clients, um, you know, to uh, to improve what they're already doing. But also, I haven't done it yet, but I would be completely open to working with like providers in that space who do offer that surveying, who do offer some sort of analysis, but then we just enhance that with, with either conversational voice bot or the emotion analytics.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Um, we already talked about AI, Gen AI, which is, really forming a core of your product when it comes to particularly also the conversational elements. And I think it's fair to say we live in a world of AI now, right? When we have said like, maybe 2, 3 years ago, we live in the digital world. Now we live in a world of AI. It is ubiquitous. Everyone has it on their phone, maybe Android phone or an iPhone. So I think we are there. And your solution is driven by Gen. At the same time, the question for me is, where are we with Gen AI, right? It's still a kind of infant technology. We are still finding out so much about it every day, getting better. How do you think it will evolve, and how will a smarter Gen AI maybe evolve your product?
Well, I think, it's such a fast moving space. If you think about when did like GPT 3.5 come out? A year ago, a year and a half, 2 years? And now we're already seeing, for the 4.0 and at A1. Um,
Yeah.
I don't, it's really hard to say. I mean, next year we're expecting to see like GPT 5. Um, and we can only guess what the capability is going to be there. For my use case, really the one thing that I would say needs to be improved or could be enhanced is the
Yeah.
voice to text because, if you speak clearly, okay, perfect. But if you need that nuances in your dialect, in your accent, that's where, it has the potential to fall down. Um, and I know the Whisper model was trained on, what was it, 750,000 hours of YouTube
Yeah.
videos or something, but um,
They're almost all in English, I guess.
which was primarily in English, I think. So there needs to be a lot more training done in that space to capture the, you know, the diversity of the world that we live in. Um, and that's really what I'm, you know, what I'm trying to focus on. I mean, from the reasoning side, I think it's worth to mention that with our voice bot, we don't ask the model for information. It's trying to find information about from the person. So if GPT-5 comes out and and it can do X, Y, and Z, it still doesn't change the fact that we're not asking it to complete a task or to solve a math riddle, blah blah blah. Uh, we're asking it to converse with somebody, and what we've got now is more than capable of doing that. But Gen AI, in terms of the hype cycle, I think we've, now gone past the peak hype, now going down into the trough, because what I see, like, especially on LinkedIn, is you've got tons of people now saying it's rubbish at this, it cannot count how many R's are in are in the word strawberry, blah, blah, blah. And I think, well, that's not what you should be using it for. I mean, why would you way up to count words? Use a, a, an NLP model, like for that. So, what we're doing now in terms of the hype cycle is we're really focusing on what are the core use cases for Gen AI. What is it not good at? What is it, brilliant at? Uh, and going forward, I think one of the most impressive spaces is the video like creation.
Yeah, I see.
I remember a few years ago, there was the advertisement that somebody made of Will Smith eating that spaghetti.
Yes, I remember that video. It was
It
horrible.
was horrible. It was a nightmare. Just seeing spaghetti splurge out his mouth all the time. It was, really, really bad.
The physics were all wrong.
Physics were wrong. His facial expressions were going everywhere. It was like a complete.
It was scary. It was like from Men in Black when he is an alien. Honestly, this is how he. Yeah.
It was really, really bad. But if you fast forward to what these are particular models in this space are doing now, it is highly, highly impressive. And I wouldn't be surprised that in the next few years there will be full-length films that generated by like Gen AI. I feel it's the next step in that space. I mean, just in like hardware, the new like 28 years later film, which is going to come out next year. It's a zombie like horror like franchise. It was filmed completely on the new iPhone. And you think 5 years ago you would never ever have that. So I think for film and the creative industry in whole, I think Gen AI is going to have a big impact there, just like the new mobile phones and their amazing cameras have had. I mean, look how much money you should save by using an iPhone 16 rather than a £15,000 camera.
Yes. Yes. That is true. That is amazing. Theo, coming back to WebXB, right? You are a year and a half almost in the go now. When we look further to the future, when you and I would sit here together again, let's say in 4 years when you turn 5, where would you love to be then? And what would you have loved to achieve?
Personally, where I would like to be somewhere warmer.
Then you have to get off the island. That's for sure.
But I have to get off the island. No, I think, like if we met 4 years later, I would love to say to you that, we've helped hundreds of companies that understand that their people in a deep emotional way. And we've helped them create experiences that have, that truly resonate with the needs of your people. And we need you know, a big part in that difference of understanding. Because that's, really the purpose of the company is to, help companies with that. I mean, can I predict what's going to happen in 4 years? Absolutely not. I mean, it's a journey. I know where I want to go, but we'll see what happens along the way.
Yeah, I mean, let's be fair. It will be double the time that we had between ChatGPT coming out and now. So what will happen until then is probably exponentially further.
Yeah, it's something that is hard to predict, really. I mean, there's all the talk of course, of AI, and what will that look like? And I think we do need to be cautious in that regard of the ability that these models have, especially I think with the emotional intelligence is a big one, because I think that's what's lacking now, and that's what makes us human, is that intelligence. We'll have to see. I mean, in terms of like regulations, the EU is obviously hot on regulated. So we'll see what comes out of it, really. If the US follows, if the UK follows, which I don't think it will personally. Um, but yeah, it's a fascinating space. It's a truly fascinating space, and I'm happy to be in it. I'm happy to be involved in it. Because it truly excites me. It truly makes me want to get up in the morning and open my laptop and start working, which is what really matters to me. Is that I enjoy what I'm doing.
Theo, I think these are very wise and excellent words to finish our conversation. I really enjoyed it. It was very insightful. I learned a lot. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed our chat. It's been a great 43 minutes.
No, I cannot cut out anything. I always has to be 43 minutes now. Otherwise the audience will know.
Oh yeah, sorry. Hold on. Don't worry. We'll just do a great 30 minutes with you at poker.
Thank you so much, Theo. Have a wonderful rest of your day and week.
Thank you very much. Like you too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.